Hi everyone and welcome to Foundation Friday. Today I am going to be doing an in-depth, thorough review of a long-awaited foundation here in the UK. This is from Estée Lauder and it's the Double Wear Sheer. Now, I am not gonna lie, I didn't know if I was just gonna have a strop, dig my heels in and not bother buying this foundation because this is the replacement of one of my all-time favorite foundations from Estée Lauder, the Double Wear Light. If you've been a regular to my channel for quite some time, you will know that that is always the foundation that I point you towards and recommend. If you say you are going to an event, you're doing your makeup first thing in the morning and you still want it to look flawless last thing at night, but you still want your skin to look like skin because it's not as heavy as the original Double Wear, but it's so stunning, it's smoothing, it's airbrushing, and it lasts all day. So yeah, they've discontinued it and replaced it with this. So if you want to know my thoughts and feelings on this, I have had this since before Christmas, so I've really been putting it through its paces since then. I know what skincare it goes with best, what SPF, what primer, whether it works better with a setting spray, the longevity of this. And by the end of this review, I will give you my thoughts and feelings on how this compares with the Double Wear Light, if that was one of your favorites as well. So let's get straight on with it. If you're new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I upload new videos on YouTube every single week. I'm also on Instagram if you fancy checking me out over there. And I'd really appreciate it if by the end of this video you found it helpful. You click on that subscribe button and come and join the Pampered Wolf Pack, and also that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. So let's do a little bit of bump on this and then I'll jump into the application, show you some shots in natural lighting and end with my final thoughts. So this is the Estée Lauder Double Wear Sheer. It costs £35 in the UK and you get the standard 30ml or 1 fluid ounce. It comes in 27 different shades. This gives sheer buildable coverage, which is supposed to be undetectable on the skin, and it gives a matte finish. Now, there are some tall claims that are made by Estée Lauder about this foundation. It's supposed to be lightweight, breathable, hydrating, smoothing, oil controlling, non-creasing. It's not supposed to sit in pores. It's got a 12-hour wear. It's sweat resistant, humidity resistant. It's non-caking, non-streaking. It's oil-free. It's alcohol-free. It's fragrance and essential oil-free, but it does have a sunscreen in there, an SPF of 20 with octinoxate and titanium dioxide. So if you are sensitive to octinoxate or titanium dioxide, this one is not going to be for you. Now, it's really important to shake this foundation well before you dispense it onto the back of your hand or a palette. The consistency is really loose and runny. So if you are like me and like to dispense it onto the back of your hand, only dispense a small amount at a time. You can always dispense more, but I got myself into a little bit of a mess because I just added too much to the back of my hand and it rolled right off the first time that I applied this. It's really smooth and easy to apply. You can apply it with a brush, a sponge, or your fingers. I'm going to be applying the left half of my face with a brush and the right half of my face with a sponge as per usual. This covers my redness and my acne scarring with ease. One layer, I would say, gives light coverage. You can shear this out quite easily, but with a brush, I would say you are going to get more coverage than if you apply this with your fingers. I was quite surprised at the level of coverage because this is Double Wear Sheer, so I was pleasantly surprised. I was hoping that this wasn't going to be more like a tinted moisturizer, but the coverage is definitely there if you want it. This gives a luminous matte finish. It's not flat matte, and it's not the natural matte that the Double Wear Light used to give you. I think this is way more luminous than the Double Wear Light. I do think this has some slight airbrushing qualities to this foundation. It's definitely not mask-like. It looks like skin, and it's very, very flattering on my normal skin, my dry skin, and my oilier skin. This did not look nice on my dry, flaky areas though. There was one day in between Christmas and New Year that I had really dry, flaky skin. I ended up applying this foundation and taking it off because it looked awful. So if you do have dry, flaky skin, I wouldn't recommend this for you. This is very easy to build on those areas that you do need more coverage. If you are using a sponge to apply this, you are going to use more because of the loose consistency of this foundation. I did find that I lost a lot within the sponge, so Just take that on board. I did get a very similar result applying this with a sponge to applying this with a brush though. So if you're wanting slightly less coverage, I would say apply with a sponge. If you're wanting a little bit more coverage, use a brush. Now, like I said, I have been testing this foundation out for quite some time now. So I was playing around with skincare, primers, SPFs, whether this needed powder or not, whether this needed setting sprays. But on day one of the wear test, I wore none of those at all. So this foundation didn't have any skincare under it, any SPF under it. Don't worry, I didn't go out at all that day. Also, it didn't have a primer underneath this. It didn't have any powder on top of it or a setting spray. So this is completely bare wear test. This is what it looked like at the end of 10 hours. So it looks very worn in places and extremely shiny. I'm not sure I agree with the oil control capabilities of this foundation. It definitely feels like it has a slip to the surface of the skin. So this foundation does dry down, and it dries down really beautifully, but it does feel like it has a silicone slip to the surface. It's very, very smooth. It feels pleasant, but not like any other foundation that I've really had on my skin before. It definitely feels like it has an oily slip, and I know it's not oil because this is an oil-free formula, but that's what it feels like. So after that wear test, I really took my time to discover what products suited this foundation best. So by the time I got to wear test day 2, I collated all that information and applied all those products before and after this foundation. So I was wearing my normal skincare, I was wearing an SPF, I was wearing a primer, I was wearing the foundation, and then I had a little bit of powder, but only a little bit over the top, and a setting spray. So this is what the foundation looked like after 10 hours. Again, it's a lot shinier, but all the foundation is present as well as all my other products as well, which by the way, blended beautifully on top of this foundation. It did not oxidize on me. It didn't oxidize on day 1 either. I do feel like this stays true to the shade that you apply right at the beginning of the day. It doesn't deepen as the day goes on. I think it looks really flattering on my skin, but again, even though I've applied a powder, this still has a little bit of a slip to the surface of the skin. If you don't like that feel, you're not gonna like this foundation. Also, I will say I don't find that this foundation is transfer resistant. It doesn't say that it will be. It says it's sweat resistant and humidity resistant. I'm not sure this foundation is going to hold up to those claims either, but as I don't live in strong humidity and also haven't tested this out on a workout, I can't answer those questions for you, but what I can say is that this did get shinier through the day. It didn't hinder the foundation for me. It was still all there, and I still think it looked beautiful by the end of the day, but it was a lot shinier. A lot. So here are my final thoughts. Now, I will link all the products that worked well for me with this foundation, but you probably have something very similar in your arsenal already. If you're wanting to go for a primer, I would definitely go for something that sinks into the skin, that doesn't create a very strong layer on the skin, to allow this to sink into the skin, because this is one of those foundations that if you're wanting it to fully dry down, in my opinion, it needs something quite lightweight underneath it that's not going to hinder that process. Otherwise, you'll get a lot more transfer throughout the day. For me, this is touch transfer resistant, but not full on transfer resistant. So I wouldn't be hugging my husband when he had a white shirt on, because he'd be rather annoyed with me if he was going to a meeting and getting out the door. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, I would be a bit afraid to wear this to a wedding, which is really quite sad, because the Double Wear Light was my go-to wedding foundation because it didn't transfer and I wouldn't have had a problem hugging a bride in this, whereas this I wouldn't be as confident with. This definitely benefits with a little bit of powder for me and a setting spray, and worked extremely well with a hydrating SPF. Having said that, although I have dry skin and a mattifying SPF made my skin look a little drier, I did try it out and it also looked beautiful on my not so dry areas. So yeah, if you have dry skin, a hydrating SPF is the way to go. If you have oily skin, a mattifying SPF is definitely the way to go with this, and it will still look beautiful. So for me, this isn't really a comparison to the Double Wear Light. Although this is really versatile, you can have it really sheer and you can build it up to, I would say, a generous medium coverage. It feels completely different. These are two totally different foundations. For a start, the Double Wear Sheer isn't transfer resistant, whereas I find the Double Wear Light is. The Double Wear Sheer isn't as long lasting, I would say 8 to 10 hours looking absolutely beautiful, whereas I can wear the Double Wear Light for 15, 16 hours and it still looks beautiful. The Double Wear Light is thicker in consistency than the Double Wear Sheer. It feels completely different on the skin. This one doesn't have that slip to the surface of the skin, but it doesn't look as skin-like and blurring as this one. This one is a natural matte. This one is a luminous matte. Can you have a luminous matte? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I would categorize it as a luminous matte. I'm hoping that makes sense for everybody. So two completely different foundations, and I'm not quite sure they should be compared, but I know I would get a lot of questions in the comment section about how it compares with my original favorite. The answer is it doesn't. So finally, I just want to mention that although the Double Wear Sheer for me doesn't really compare with the Double Wear Light, I still think it's a lovely foundation, very beginner friendly. Just like the Double Wear Light, this didn't creep into any fine lines or wrinkles, it didn't move, it didn't lift, it didn't look patchy or cakey by the end of the day. Even though it went shiny, there was not a hint of cakiness in sight, which I really, really liked. Every single day that I wore this foundation, bar one when I had dry flaky skin and had to remove it because it looked awful, they were good makeup days for me. My skin looked beautiful. It's very difficult to get a luminous foundation that airbrushes, and they've managed it. So that's quite an achievement, and I just think my skin looks lovely today. It cancels out all redness. It just covers everything I want to cover while still giving me that flawless but skin-like finish. So I'm impressed. I just wish they hadn't discontinued this, so I'm a little bitter. So that's it for this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If I haven't managed to answer a question that you really wanted answering, please let me know in the comment section and I'll try and get a response to you as soon as possible. My mum will be trying this as well as the Charlotte Tilbury foundation that will be winging its way to her as soon as I see her next week. So I will be getting her reaction to those and her opinions on those and how they wear on her skin as well. So stay tuned for that. I had a look at the reviews on the Estée Lauder website and other websites that sell this foundation, and the opinions are completely split. They're either 1 star or 5 stars. There's really nothing in between. So I'm really eager to see where you all stand. If you've tried this foundation already, are you in the love it camp or are you in the please bin this camp? Don't forget to give me your thoughts, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.